Hey, hope all is well. Thank you for joining me. Jeffy, I am. Welcome to OK, Let's Talk About It. All right, first of all, I'm a licensed medical patient. So I went to the dispensary today. And that's where my story picks up at. I ran into I would call him a friend, someone I met maybe 17, 18 years ago. We used to work together, right? And it was good to see him doing some catching up, and it was good to see how he's turning out. And it was also, good to hear about his kids. One thing he asked me about the election. So I said, okay, I'll indulge, I'll talk. So one thing he asked me, he knows my views, and I kind of know his views from throughout the years. He kept asking me, hey man, he was kind of hard on Kamala, and that's his opinion. It doesn't bother me any. And when we got to talking, he kind of figured out that I'm more of an independent than for the bigger candidates, and even in the independent realm, there wasn't really anybody to vote for. So he kind of got my hint because I didn't divulge who I voted for. That's my business, and I'm gonna keep it to myself. So anyway, it was obvious he voted for Trump, and that's where it gets a little tricky. Now this brother's a Nigerian brother. He's been over here. He's the second generation of his family over here in the States. So when he kept going on about certain subjects concerning Miss Harris, I understand because culturally, where his family's from and how he lives his life, it's up for discussion. But we had a pretty decent discussion over it. I understand, and he kept asking me, "Why would you vote for a woman if that was in your mind? Why would you do that?" And it's hard to explain to someone when you watch, your mother, your sister. I have five girls of my own, and watching to see them blossom. I have strong female influences in my life. It's hard to tell somebody from a different country, how to think about something. Okay, we threw that back and forth, and we was actually having a good conversation. So one thing I asked him is, throughout the conversation, he kept saying things like the people, you people, them people. So I was like, all right, I get it. So the conversation came up, again about. I asked him, what is it about my people, your people? I said, my people are your people. He was like, no, I'm African, you're American. And so we have to break down the term African American, right? It's a thing, it's a discussion nowadays. And I didn't want to entertain it because the way I see things are a little harsher than how he see things. And we have a difference of opinion on that. So then again, in the conversation, I asked him, well, if you feel a certain way, how do you feel about immigration and our Latino brothers? And he didn't have much to say about that, but he was up for deportation and things of that nature, and it disturbed me because then again, he's African. He doesn't consider himself African American. Now I know plenty of people of all different types of races, and the African brothers I went to college with are nothing like this brother. Okay, now we live here deep in the middle of Missouri. You know what kind of red state that is. So I asked him the same question I asked most people. I was like, "Yo, brother, I keep hearing the last 4 years sucked, and when Trump was in office, people claimed that there was more money. How do you feel?" And he felt the same way. So to get a definitive answer, I said, break it down to me. Tell me how you prospered while Trump was in office. Because this brother, he hates Obama. He loves Trump. And the only thing he can tell me is the stimulus checks, and he's married. Well, he's divorced now, but his children's mother received more money on her income tax. That's all I keep hearing. And it made me think about this here election that's coming up in the propaganda. The last 4 years, he's been on this job for a while. It really hasn't made any difference. He hasn't had no major pitfalls, and he hasn't had any major wins. I think he, as a 48, 49-year-old man, I think he worked hard, and what he worked for, he's accomplished. And I think that's what anybody here has to do. You can't wait on anybody to give you any money. Or what I really think is this election gave him hope, which I think it gave a lot of people. Now, I don't understand how. But back to the subject, he couldn't give me a reason why. Or he couldn't give me reasons why he didn't like Biden, or what was so bad about Biden. And that goes to, the education, lack of, I should say, and his thinking and how he sees black people. And I asked him, I was like, brother, you darker than me. How can you come up with that? And he's basically going on how the stereotypes are more effective in the music and everything that's on social media. But he's been in this country, over 40 years. So I don't understand. I don't understand it at all. And before we left, I asked him how he felt about, the things that may be implemented against collegiate institutions that may not follow Trump's plan. He's talking about fining them or shutting them down. And he didn't understand what I was really talking about, because it was something I was listening to, on the way to the dispensary. And from my first instinct, being in the position I am, it made me think about all college institutions that may get fined, or different things may happen to them. First thing to start enter my mind was the HBCUs, which I went to, and now my daughter attends a HBCU. So it made me think really hard on it. And he didn't have any thoughts on that, and no cares. Once again, he doesn't consider himself black. He considers himself African. And he doesn't really know about HBCUs or the history behind HBCUs. And none of his children attend HBCUs, historically black universities. So that was very interesting with him being a property owner like myself. You would think about the next 4 years and what you would want to do, and how you can, diverse your income, and, stay afloat with different tax laws, especially if you're not making a certain amount of money. Because I think it's turning into the have and have-nots. But anyway, very interesting conversation. So, on the way out, I was like, well, since you feel like you got what you wanted, he showed me pictures of him and his wife dressed up in all the red, white, and blue Trump attire. I was like, wow, it blew my mind. But again, we all individuals, and that's his thought. So I said, how did you all celebrate that? Because he asked me what I did. I said, I was asleep. I'm asleep by 9 o'clock. And he told me nothing. Him and his wife just sat at home and didn't really do anything. They had went to a bar out here in central Missouri, and the bartender asked them to leave. So I asked, I said, man, how'd that make you feel? He said, I didn't feel nothing of it, He's still proud, just so proud. It made me think about identity and how people think of black people. I know some of you all are not going to like that, but it's a real thing. And this is an African gentleman. And the state of the world, it just made me think like, wow, how could you not feel a way, even though you support some, and you can't go, and party with your supporters and people that you gave money to, t-shirts and support time, but you can't go party with these people. How does that make you feel? How does it make your kids feel? How does how do you think your kids are gonna look at you? Because I know it's children, and they live their life as black kids. So it just is very interesting, very interesting. I want to share that with you. Last thing on it, maybe an hour ago, I seen this gentleman this afternoon. Maybe an hour ago, he emails me, gave me his number again. So I called him. I was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. He said, "Man, I think I may have made a mistake." I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I did some thinking, and my wife feels a certain way about certain things because his wife didn't tell her how she just supported everything that he was going through. I mean, what his thought was, and that's how it usually is on that side. And when she voiced her opinion, it made him think about his kids and think about his future, especially where we live at. And it was very interesting. And I said, I know, brother, I feel you. And that's all I had for him. I didn't have nothing else to say to him because I think a lot of people are going to wake up, and it's not a racial thing, but the have and have nots is a real thing. And I think we all need to try to get our business in order in some way. Something to think about, and I want to share it with you. Jeffy, I am. We talked about it. We'll talk again.